that all men are created equal.
As a member of Congress, I get to have a lot of really interesting people in the office, experts on what they're talking about.
This is the podcast
For insights into the issues.
China, bioterrorism, Medicare for all, in-depth discussions.
Breaking it down into simple terms. We hold
these truths.
We hold these truths
with Dan Crenshaw.
The Eagle has landed.
Hey everybody, we have a really important podcast today because we're going to talk about the Small Business Administration and SBA loans that are happening. The PPP program is run through the SBA loan program, and it is the vehicle to get everybody their Paycheck Protection Program loans, and it's been one of the most popular programs that we've had as a country to help sustain our economy during these shutdowns. Okay, so to help us with that conversation today, we are thankful to have SBA Regional Administrator Justin Crossie. Justin, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, sir. I greatly appreciate the opportunity.
Oh, absolutely, and really appreciate you, and I'm sure you guys are pretty busy these days.
It is, the former Administrator McMahon referred to us as the best kept secret in federal government, and that's no longer the case.
No, not anymore. Not that you want to be a secret. You guys do a lot of good things outside of coronavirus pandemics, so we'll get to that eventually too. So first of all, though, you're a regional administrator, and this is the South Central region, which serves more than 3.8 million small businesses in Arkansas, Louisiana, New Mexico, Oklahoma, and Texas. And before this, you were district director for Steve Scalise, our House. Well, I guess when you were the director, he was House Majority Whip. Now we're in the minority, sadly. I have never known the majority, but it is what it is. And before that, you were in the Marine Corps, and you're a Marine Corps veteran, served as a heavy equipment mechanic. And what an odd track from crane eating. No, I just had to throw that in there. From crane eating Marine to where we are now. It's impressive.
So, by the way, just with the crayons, the red ones truly are the best.
Yeah. Well, it's your colors, right?
Absolutely.
It's the red and gold. So not surprising. Not surprising. So So I mean, how did you get tapped for SBA specifically? Was that your policy expertise? With Scalise, in any way, how did this happen?
I guess an anomaly in the in this world. Immigrated from Canada when I was 8. Mm-hmm. Went to a military school. Joined the Marine Corps shortly after. I felt that I had a debt to pay a country that's provided so much for me, and so I went to Marine Corps. I'm a diesel mechanic by trade. Worked offshore in the oil field, turning wrenches and getting nasty and dirty, and was fortunate enough to originally start working for, at the time, Congressman Vitter. Mm-hmm. From Congressman Vitter, when he won the Senate seat, went to work for him in the Senate. From there, I met Congressman Scalise, or State Rep Scalise, helped with his campaign, and then after that joined his team. And so I've been with Congressman Scalise's office until this appointment. And there was an opportunity to branch out and I guess spread my wings, so to say, and Congressman Scalise encouraged me to apply for the position. I don't know that it was so much subject matter expertise because as the district director, I kind of touched on everything. Yeah. But it was just an opportunity for growth. And with that, here I am.
Yeah, here you are in 2020. Quite a year. So it's, we were, not only is there coronavirus, but there was an impeachment, and now there's murder hornets. Well, those apparently are not as scary as we thought those were going to be. So that's the good news. All right. Let's talk about SBA generally prior to the PPP program and the many other programs that are being utilized for coronavirus. So 1953 looks like it was established, and I guess the goal is to empower small business owners, gives them tools, resources you need to launch, grow your small business. There's 3 major components to it: assisting small businesses to obtain capital, helping small businesses navigate the federal procurement marketplace, and offering managerial counseling and assistance. So, what do you have to add to that? What's SBA's missions, and how's it changed over the years? What should Americans know about it?
I would say that you've covered it all, and I can leave now. But
yeah, we're done.
No, the mission of the SBA is to assist the American entrepreneur. We're here to help them build their business. What is that American dream for them? And I would say that everybody's American dream is probably a little bit different. But for the American entrepreneur, we're a resource for them. We want to help them be successful. There's over 30 million small businesses in this country, and the small business is the heart and backbone of the American economy. We're here to support them. We're here to help small business build and grow and to be successful and to offer them the tools that they need along that journey.
And you guys only have 4,000 people work for SBA. Is that true?
We're probably, I'd say, the smallest agency. I don't have an exact head count, but that sounds about right.
That's what I'm reading. So that means your region is, I don't know, just very small.
I'm actually one of the larger regions, Region 6. We've got 10 offices. The great state of Texas.
The greatest state is usually how it's referred to.
Oh, I'm sorry. The greatest state of Texas has 6 offices, and then every other state in my region has 1.
Gotcha.
So we've got just some really incredible people working for the SBA in Region 6, and quite honestly, an entire agency. But I'm fortunate enough to be working daily with some amazing people in Region 6, and I count myself as fortunate to be able to call them coworkers.
What's been the most challenging thing throughout this entire process? I mean, well, let's just specifically to coronavirus. What's the most challenging thing you guys have had to deal with as an agency, getting this PPP program out?
The most challenging part has been that there are so many people and small business owners that need assistance, and it's getting that assistance to them. That has probably
never fast enough.
It's never fast enough, and the people that our offices work with often become, they'll refer to us as family and friends. So you've got those people that are reaching out to you looking for assistance, and sometimes you can get it to them quickly and sometimes you can't, and it's unbelievably frustrating when you have those close personal relationships. You want to be able to help every single one of them, and sometimes it just takes a little bit longer to get that assistance out.
Do you think we're getting it out? I mean, it's the first tranche ran out pretty quickly. This one has not yet, and what are you hearing on the ground level? Are there others? Because we definitely heard it before. We're not hearing it as much now, just as a congressional office. People be able to get their loans. But do you think this was probably the best policy we could come up with, or what would you do differently looking back on it?
I'm not much of an armchair quarterback.
Yeah.
The program is doing what it needs to do. The PPP, it's getting funds in the hands of small businesses so that they can keep people on payroll, so they can keep themselves afloat.
Yeah.
The first tranche that went out basically in 14 days. The SBA made the equivalent of 14 years worth of loans in 14 days.
Wow.
And then, the money was gone. Y'all as Congress reappropriated some more funds for us. And
not right away, like we should have, but that's a different story. If everybody recalls, let's just not forget, because we shouldn't forget this. Speaker Pelosi delayed that funding purposefully, and waited a week while small businesses failed. So you don't have to comment on that, but I have to.
Appreciate that, sir. The 27th is when that funding came back, and we were able to open up the Triple P program again.
Right.
And it's been successful. We've got, I want to say over 5,000 lenders now participating, making loans, small local banks, credit unions, stepping up and really filling a need and providing the resources for these small businesses to carry on and to keep their employees in place. I would say that it's been very successful.
This is the average loan size has been around $70,000 for the second round of PPP. So it really is going to small businesses. I know there was a lot of heartache over, some businesses that I think Americans view as big businesses, Shake Shack and Harvard University, and there was a couple others like Ruth Chris, view them as big businesses. I think that's a more nuanced conversation. I mean, every business was losing revenue, so it's not obvious to me that they shouldn't get it. But obviously, we want to prioritize it for small businesses. That appears to be happening now when you see that kind of average loan size. So, is that what you're seeing as well?
Yes, sir, it is. We've seen the rush of applications has slowed down. I want to say we probably have fundings available till June 30th or until it runs out, and I believe last count I saw right around $100 billion might be left in the account. So there's still money there, and I would encourage any small business that needs that support to reach out to their local lenders that are participating and fill out that application and apply.
And Treasury and SBA announced not sure when you guys announced this, but that SBA would review all PPP loans in excess of $2 million just to make sure that the borrower's self-certification was appropriate. And so that's one safeguard in place, because again, I think taxpayers have a concern that businesses that never needed the loans were getting the loans. I certainly had that concern, and it wasn't. So can you walk us through what safeguards there are to make sure that businesses whose revenues didn't change? I mean, and there's plenty of them, right? Like there's no grocery store that really whose revenues changed, I would think, but and I don't know if they took the loans, but I think that's on people's minds. And so what are the safeguards? Here's one, right? Like you're going to actually look at it if it's above 2 million, but what if it's below 2 million? There's a self-certification process. What does that look like?
Well, so the self-certification process is, as it stands now, is under penalty of law. You swear or affirm that the information you're giving is correct. Obviously, when you hit that $2 million mark, there is the audit that the Treasury Secretary mentioned. We'll be going back and taking a look at those to ensure that the people that received the loans actually needed the loans. Unfortunately, there's the spirit of the law, and then there's letter of the law. And there are many people that may have been legally eligible that have taken PPP money. Again, spirit of the law versus letter of the law.
Well, and what is what do they have to claim on there? Is a lost revenue? What exactly do they have to claim?
The PPP is meant to keep your payroll going so you can keep your staff and be ready to launch back once we are opened up for business again. And the metrics are that you provide your payroll, your rent, your expenses. Take a look at that. It's multiplied by 2 for 2 months worth, 8 weeks, and that's where the loan number comes from. So there was not a lot of information asked for other than payroll.
Right. You don't have to prove that you were really hit hard by coronavirus or that your revenues dropped. Is there a mechanism for that?
No, sir.
No. Yeah, and we didn't write it. Yeah, and we didn't necessarily write it that way because it's difficult to actually, it would slow down the loans to such an extent, I think, that it would have kind of defeated the purpose of the program. And so it's good for people to know, though, that at least for these larger loans, they're being scrutinized.
Any loan can be reviewed, but again, the trigger is the $2 million.
Right.
But as you mentioned, this was legislation that was passed that was desperately needed to help keep the economy afloat. And the object of this program is to get those funds to those businesses so they can keep their staff and they can be ready to reopen at full force when the economy reopens.
Yeah, and it's done a pretty good job of that. So what are some of the most common questions you're getting from small businesses that they're confused about or they're unsure about that you'd want to clarify right now? Is there any in particular?
Nothing that really is jumping out. I think where we're going to start seeing some questions is with the applications for forgiveness, and that information came out last week. The application form to be filled out for forgiveness, and I believe that's where we're going to start seeing some questions coming up. The loans are forgivable, but again, you've got to make sure that you're meeting the guidelines.
Right.
Businesses that I have spoken with, I've encouraged them to open a separate account for their PPP money, so there's no question of where those funds went, what they were used for, were they used for qualifying expenses, and just kind of keep those lanes separate. So that's been one thing that we've noticed and recommended. But again, as we move forward, there are more nuanced questions that come about, and without actually having that individual's application or paperwork in front of you, it's hard to say what exactly the questions are, as they vary as much as the small businesses that we serve.
Yeah. Well, what is some of the confusion around loan forgiveness? Has the guidance changed a few times? I think there has been some complaints about that. And what is the most current guidance on loan forgiveness that small businesses would need to know?
All the information is available on SBA.gov. There's a form there that you fill out. And again, we are working to get frequently asked questions up on the website as people start to fill these out. What are the questions that are coming in as it relates to the forgiveness? Is this eligible? Is this considered part of my operating expenses? So again, as nuanced as the businesses that we deal with.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And can you explain some? There's a lot of size standards for small businesses. It's not necessarily as simple as 500 employees or less. There's something called NAICS codes, NAICS codes. Can you give us a brief explanation of those, what that means and how businesses fall under those? And has there been any confusion from small businesses on that, or do they pretty much already know because they deal with SBA already, that they know where they fall?
They typically know where they fall, but the codes are put in place to ensure that contracting programs that are available through the SBA, that the right size business is applying. There are reserved federal contracts for small businesses, so to ensure that they are in fact eligible, those codes are how they define them. There are different contracting opportunities, so the size standards do vary a little bit, but with those codes, we're able to ensure that the right businesses are receiving the products that are available through the office.
Okay, and what if they're not eligible for PPP? What other options are available?
Well, SBA's got a host of loan programs that are available. PPP obviously was set up in response to COVID-19, but we have quite a few programs that are available through lenders. We have the 504 program. We have the traditional 7A program. What I would encourage a business that maybe is not receiving the benefits of the PPP program would be to reach out to their local SBA office and speak with a lending specialist and find out what opportunities may be available that are in our, what I'd call our legacy programs. And that would be the loan programs that were in place prior to the COVID-19 CARES Act.
Are there any in particular that are well suited for this current situation?
I would say that the 7A loan program is more likely going to be the best fit.
Okay. What is that exactly?
So the 7A loan program has a maximum loan amount of $5 million, usually comes with 85% guarantee. The loans can be used for expansion, renovation, new construction, purchasing land, equipment, fixtures, lease improvements, working capital. So that would more than likely be the best fit for somebody that is looking for additional funding to weather the COVID storm.
Yeah. If it's a loan, it's the PPP program is really a grant program. It's called a loan, but it's a forgivable loan, which therefore means it's a grant.
And none of the legacy loan programs that the SBA has are grants.
Right.
They are all loan programs. They're very favorable loan programs, but again, as you mentioned, unlike the PPP, there is repayment that is there. And again, it's through a local bank. The SBA doesn't do direct loans for these. But what we do is we offer a guarantee on that loan to the local lending institution.
And again, so outside the coronavirus pandemic and normal life, you're a small business, you're trying to start up. I mean, how do small businesses weigh their options, whether they go try and get a loan from a bank or whether they use SBA? Do they primarily use SBA? Is that pretty much always the best option because of the favorable loan structure?
So SBA think of us as a toolbox, or maybe something that you may be more familiar with, a parachute. Right. So SBA is the parachute canopy, and then we have a bunch of different risers that come down to the harness. And whereas you'd be the jumper hooked into that rig, think of the small business as the jumper. And we have resource partners that are the riser lines running up to the canopy, which is SBA. So we have a bunch of different resource partners that are available to us. That are all, I say available to us, available to the small businesses to use. We have the Small Business Development Center, we have the Women Business Center, we have VBOC, Veterans Business Center, and they're all resources that are available to the entrepreneur to use and find whatever the information is they're looking for. Perhaps they need, hey, I need a better business plan to articulate what it is that I want so I can make myself more bankable. I need to deal, I'm looking to export widgets and where can I find those resources? And so we have those resources available underneath that canopy as resources for those small business. So it really varies as to what a small business is looking for. Then when we identify it, then we try to put them in touch with the right resource partner to help fill that or answer that question or provide that resource for them.
Yeah, like a consulting agency almost. In some ways. So the resource partners, are these private resource partners? Are these other government resource partners? What can somebody expect if they come to you with this great new idea to start a small business and you guys work with them?
So they are all partially funded through the SBA, and then typically there's a match that is met with SBDCs. Usually a university would be the matching partner through state funds. So they are, I guess you would say they're not private for-profit resources. They are free resources made available to entrepreneurs to help further their business, which again supports the American economy. The SBDC, for example, you go in, you meet with a business counselor and say, man, I've got the best idea for whatever it is, and they will sit down with you and walk through what exactly it is. And
maybe tell you it's not a good idea.
I'd be willing to bet that that's a conversation that's been had many times around a table at an SBDC, is that maybe you should try looking at this instead of that, and guiding them. I mean, the whole goal of the SBA and our resource partners is to make the small business successful. And sometimes it's a hard call to make, but it's telling them that this isn't really what direction you need to be running in. You should be running right instead of left.
Yeah. And, these topics, these learning centers, I've got a list here too, and you named a few of those, but it's pretty impressive. Topics include writing a business plan, financing options, legal requirements and compliance, social media strategy, marketing, competitive analysis, calculating startup costs, registering a business, paying taxes. I mean, this is really basic stuff. I wouldn't know the answer to these things. You might have some great idea to start a new business. Maybe it's like, axe throwing or something cool. And, but yeah, it seems really simple. Okay, I need a building and I want to have some plywood and I want to throw axes at it and I want people to pay for that. And maybe, serve some food or something, but it's obviously a lot more complicated than that. And, entrepreneurs they've got that great idea, but they need that structure around them to get it going. And so SBA does that. Do you guys find that the demand for those kind of services overwhelms your ability to deliver them, or are we about good? Do we have enough loans to give out? What's the cap on that? Again, outside coronavirus, just normal times.
Yes, I would say that outside of Corona times, we absolutely have the necessary guaranteed budget to meet those needs. Mm-hmm. As with any agency, our resource partners do more with less every single day. They do a fantastic job. When I worked for Congressman Scalise, one of his offices was co-located in an SBDC in Hammond. Yeah. And I, for a number of years working out of that office, I would see daily people coming in, meeting with the counselors and getting the education that they need to be successful. And again, lots and lots of great information given out. And some of that information was, let's rethink this. And at the end of the day, maybe you save somebody from dumping their life savings into what they think is a really good idea that really doesn't have legs. And they come back, and after that counseling with that small business development center, after that counseling, they've come back with an adjusted idea, and it's one that works. Yeah. And so,
are there any statistics on businesses that that fail versus, I guess, the rate of failure with businesses that work with SBA versus ones that don't? Is there any statistics you guys tout?
I'm sure that there are, but none that I'm aware of at the moment or that I have in front of me.
In any case, a little advice is always good. So you guys also do you work with trade and export centers and give small businesses resources for that too. It's important for us here in Houston because we're a big exporting city. So do you want to talk about any of those? What kind of assistance is available for that as well?
Well, absolutely. So, within SBA itself, there's the Office of International Trade, and the whole purpose of that organization is to facilitate trade with our small businesses. There's STEP grant, which is matching money that comes down to the states. Each state operates that a little bit differently, but again, it's money that's made available to help small businesses be successful at exporting their product. There's the District Export Council here in Houston. The Houston Small Business Small SBA office works closely with all these organizations here in Houston, and I'd be happy to get a list of that for you, for your staff to make available for people that may have questions. But again, we partner with every aspect of the business community, whether it's the entrepreneur, whether it's the Port of Houston or the Port of New Orleans. We try to have relationships with all those people so we can plug the right wire into the right socket and make that connection so people are able to be successful with what it is that they're trying to do. Again, be it opening a new business, exporting into a new market, getting to a trade show in wherever. That's the whole mission of the SBA, is to make them successful.
What about liability protection? This is, now we're going back to our current times and coronavirus. One of the big concerns I hear is liability protection. Is there going to be any guidance for small businesses on maybe how to protect themselves from potential lawsuits as trial lawyers just unleash a wave of hell on our poor small businesses because, I don't know, maybe an employee got coronavirus? And, this is something we're very worried about in Congress, and I think we need to deal with. Or are you guys just waiting for us to deal with it in Congress because it needs to be made into law?
Typically, when you get into the legal side of things, that's where we kind of step back, and we can certainly make some generalizations.
Yeah, you're still giving your typical legal counsel, of course, or services. Not counsel, maybe, but maybe I guess legal compliance consulting things, but not counsel. I don't want to use that word. That's not true.
It would be more along the lines of this is what's required in the state of Texas for you to open up as a legal entity. Right. Would be. Okay.
So you guys aren't going to be offering advice on how to deal with specific lawsuits. That's not what SBA does.
Absolutely not.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. Because we don't want people to be expecting that either. That is for us to deal with in the House or in Congress because it's going to be an issue, certainly. And a lot of businesses are frightened of that. And on that note, I mean, what else are you hearing from small businesses and their concerns for the future? Do you see something that we don't, as far as what you're hearing from entrepreneurs, small business owners, besides, of course, getting the PPP funding faster? What else could we be doing?
I think the biggest thing that I'm hearing and what I'm seeing is, how do I move forward once my state reopens?
Yeah. Are you going to have customers coming in? What are the health guidance restrictions?
Take a restaurant, for example. So how do I let you, Congressman, know that, hey, my restaurant, one, has been cleaned to CDC standards, and that it's clean, and that I've got the appropriate distancing in place for the social distancing guidelines of where people sit when they eat. How many people can I put in here? Like it or not, we're going to be dealing with a different mentality of what people expect, what they're willing to endure, and the business owners got to figure out what that is. And so that's kind of what we're hearing now. How do we adapt to, and I really do hate to say this, but the new norm? How do I adapt to that? What do I need to do? How do I convince my client, whatever that may be, that I'm back open for business, and that whatever service I'm providing is going to be safe for you as the consumer? So I think that's the direction that we're going in. I believe that the American entrepreneur is the risk taker of this country, right? They're the ones that step out and say, this is my dream, I'm going to follow it, and I'm going to make it work, and to the point of I'm willing to put on the line my livelihood. And so they're coming out saying, all right, how do I continue with this? And through the resource partners that we have, we are trying to help navigate those roads. It's new for us as well. And so we are working together with our resource partners. How do we provide those answers? How do we work with each state? I think Governor Abbott's done a fantastic job in the reopening of Texas. I was here a couple of weeks ago. As a matter of fact, it may have been the first Friday that the state was starting to reopen. So I was able to get chow, and I was able to get around town and do things and gas, and come back now 2 weeks later. And again, the state is opening up, and business is coming back, and it's going to vary by state. But how do we as SBA help that small business meet this new market? Yeah,
and what I'm finding is businesses mostly figure it out. It seems like it's a combination of associations getting together and delivering that guidance. A restaurant association is going to deliver kind of some basic guidance to its members, and then they do that, and then you guys can take some of the best practices and well, this worked for this business, maybe it'll work for your business. What I found is, at the private business side, the regulations they put in place, the guidelines they put in place, have a lot of common sense attached to them. They seem to be just about right. Unlike many of the state and local government regulations that have been put in place across the country, which have been, for lack of a better word, stupid. and not based on common sense. We saw those all across the country. Luckily, here in Texas, we generally avoided that, which is except for maybe a salon owner or two who was unable to avoid that. But yeah, they're definitely going to have those questions. But I think they also figure it out. It's sort of, you wouldn't have had a successful business in the first place if you weren't used to figuring some things out. Okay. And I'm seeing that happen. And this is the case I've been making. You just got to trust people to get back to work. You just have to trust them. Never in human history have we locked down society and said, we don't trust you to talk to each other or to interact. Never. All of a sudden, we thought this was the best idea ever. The entire world did, not just here in the United States. It was the entire world. I think we should look back on this and rethink our actions to an extent, or at least rethink how long we did it, and rethink how we moved the goalposts and rethink what our actual goals were. And if we met those goals, why we kept doing the same thing. But I won't go on a tirade about lack of critical thinking and government policy, but I think there was a bit of that. And so I guess my point is I have a lot of optimism for small businesses and their ability to just figure it out and get back to work. I'm seeing it right outside of my window here. I think a lot more places will be open this weekend. It'll be interesting to see who's there and who isn't there. But I'm optimistic about people's willingness to get back to work.
It's what this country was built on, though, right? I mean, the expansion west wasn't because they wanted the easy road, right? Mm-hmm. And I believe that spirit is the spirit of the American entrepreneur, and they're chasing their dream. And maybe it's not taking a covered wagon out west, but it's the modern day equivalent of that. And I absolutely believe that business owners will find that way. There was a reason that they decided to offer whatever service it was. Again, everybody's American dream is a little bit different, but that's their American dream. And I think that the people of this country aren't readily going to give that up. And I believe that you're right, that you were going to see people coming back, figuring it out, saying, all right, well, this doesn't work, but I can do this and it will work. And this is how I'm going to get my customers back, or this is how I'm going to continue providing that service, thing that makes this country so absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I think so. Do you see any shift in focus for SBA in the future based on what you've learned off of everything in coronavirus?
No, I believe our mission is going to stay the same, and that's going to be that we're here to help businesses grow and expand and to start. We are a resource for the small business entrepreneur, and I don't see that changing other than perhaps we become more utilized now that more people know about the agency.
Gotcha. Do you have anything else you want to add? I mean, what else do you want people to know about SBA and what you're doing and what you have to offer? Is there anything we missed?
No, I don't think there's anything that we missed, but what I would like to let your listeners know is that SBA is a resource, not only here in Texas, and while I understand that, it is the great state of Texas, we have offices across the entire country. I would encourage people to go to sba.gov. From there, there are search tabs where they can search via zip code and find the SBA resources that are available to them in their neighborhoods, in their communities. They can find the SBDCs, they can find the veteran business centers, they can find the women's business centers, and they can find those resources right there in their community. They're locals, they're people that know the area in which they're working. And I would just, sba.gov, please go check it out. It's a resource that's available there for you. Please use it. It's just, it's an amazing toolbox, and the stuff that's in that toolbox is unbelievably helpful.
Great. That's good to know. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. I don't have anything else to add, and coming down here, and thanks for all the hard work you all do. And please tell everybody who works at your regional office, we very much appreciate them. And I'm sure the sleepless nights they've had over these last couple of months as SBA has been front and center